All right, so I'm here today with
Natasha.
Hi Natasha. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. After this yoga session, it was
Yeah, it was a very hot yoga class.
definitely. So, how do we meet just now, or like how do we get to this moment?
Well, you signed up for my hot yoga class and attended a session and asked about feet and mental health.
Yes. So the whole point of this channel that I do, I approach different women getting their thoughts on feet and mental health because there's a connection to between the two, and also like feet being a very uncomfortable topic for most people, and then also teaching way how to deal with anxiety or fear when in the moment.
Okay.
Normally, I start off with mental health questions, but since you're a yoga instructor, I want to kind of get some questions related to yoga.
Okay.
So, first question is, how did you get into yoga?
I have just always practiced yoga since I was probably a teenager. It's just something that I've always been drawn to, and I think that there are so many different kinds of yoga that your practice can evolve with your lifestyle and the phases that you go through in life.
Good, good. And so, to you, what were the benefits of doing yoga?
Um, to keep your body healthy, yoga promotes bone growth. Um, it promotes flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you moving, which is really what we want, especially as we get older. We progressively lose, the ability to do things with our bodies. So yoga maintains that, and it also helps you mentally.
Right, right. So, how long have you been instructing yoga?
Um, 2.5 years.
2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And like getting into yoga, like, did you find sort of like a calling or like something you were very drawn to?
I think it would be both. A little backstory: I actually almost lost uh, a foot. I suffered from an injury. They wanted to amputate my foot, and I always practice yoga anyway, but it came to the point where I couldn't even walk or stand. So I took it upon myself to use yoga to mentally get through the chronic pain and to regain mobility in my body. Um, so after I overcame that, I was drawn to teaching to show people that your body is amazing and your mind is too, and you really can exceed things that you don't think that you can. Um, if you can become disciplined and intentional in your movement and your way of thinking.
Yeah, yeah. So, what would you say would be the biggest takeaway of yoga in general, like for people to do or to know?
The biggest takeaway is the best thing that you can do for yourself is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that this day and age, especially with technology and everybody worried about what other people think about them through a lens, they really become removed and disassociated with their bodies,
Right.
and knowing um, what's uncomfortable but can be done to exceed, and what you really shouldn't do because you'll hurt yourself. So I think that yoga can really help you tap into that physically and mentally.
Yeah. And you mentioned about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. I'll go deep into that more later on. So, going to the mental health portion, what's your thoughts on mental health?
Um, well, that's like a vague question. Can you
I'm about to
expand
say it
on?
could be, it sounds vague, but like it's your opinion or like your thoughts on it. Like, should it bring more awareness or like it needs to be more open to people like that?
Well, I actually worked in mental health for 8 years, which is why I'm asking.
Uh,
I have a background in psychology too. So, um, I mean, I think that as far as in our culture, mental health is a crisis. I think there's a lot of focus on things that should be perceived as normal, but they're controlled through medication, and there's other things that aren't normal that we accept as being okay. So, I definitely think that now there seems to be a struggle with people overall being able to cope with their mental health and improve their mental health without resorting to easy things like medication. And I'm not saying that it's not necessary. In some situations it is, but I think that a lot of times it becomes the easy way out.
All right. In terms of stress or anxiety or depression, how do you cope with them or manage it?
Yoga and breath work.
Breath work.
Yes.
Can you explain more about breath work?
Yeah. So breath work, basically, one part of yoga is focusing on controlling your body and regulating it through your breath. So you tap into your body. It can help you control your heartbeat. People with anxiety, if they have panic attacks, if they were able to tap into their breath work and use that as a practice, they could better manage situations where they feel like they're kind of spiraling mentally.
All right. In your own words, what does mind and body health mean to you?
Mind and body health. I'm not really sure how to answer that because I don't really see that as separate. And that's actually one of my peeves with yoga. And I do use it sometimes, especially if I'm like promoting classes, mind and body. I think that, well, I hope that mind and body is a buzzword that will eventually exit out, because I think that everyone needs to shift into realizing that that is one. Your mind and your body is connected. Yoga is just one of many tools to connect your mind and your body. But I don't always like using it because I think it creates a dichotomy with the two, and there shouldn't be.
Yeah. So you basically summed it up great. So basically, like, our mind and body are interconnected, make it overall healthy. Mm-hmm. So basically, if one part ain't healthy than the other, then it doesn't. You ain't really healthy. So, like, let's say if you have an injury and it prevents you from doing things physically, also could put that mental strain on it.
Yes.
And vice versa. Like, if you're not in the right mindset, you're not able to do certain things. Kind of like in sports sense, the way you feel is the way you perform.
Yes. And basically it's up to each individual to find out which one they would strengthen from. Sometimes you have to resort to overcoming mental things to really get into your body. And sometimes it's the other way around. You have to start with your body to overcome any mental restraints that you have. But it really does, and I do strongly believe that everything starts from the ground up. So it does always start with your feet. Mentally, your feet are connected with your body organ functions, your entire circulation, which connects to your brain. So yes, it is. It's all very connected. Both have to be healthy to function at your best self.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on self-care, and how often do you practice that?
I mean, self-care is important. It's also a pretty trendy word right now, so I think sometimes it gets a little morphed. But I do feel like for me, my form of self-care is making sure that I practice yoga on a personal basis as well as teaching. There's a lot of different ways that people can practice self-care, but it is important, yes.
Yes. So basically, like, when I ask you mental health, it's kind of like that same being like vague, like, what do I mean by that? Because self-care could be different to different people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What are your thoughts about trying new experiences?
Well, I think that does tie a lot into self-care. I have always been a very open-minded person. I'm always open to new things, but I think that if you're not very deeply rooted in your own self-care regimen, then you might try things that may not be great. Everything is there's a flip side to everything. So
like, you'll never know if you don't try.
Yeah. But I think that people, and I know that for myself, it does come with a level of self-trust, which you can get from self-care, to know yourself and know your limit. Like it's okay to try new things, but if something just doesn't feel right, I definitely feel like people should trust their gut and, you know, not do anything that they don't feel like is a new thing that would be great for them.
Right, right. All right. So moving on to the next topic. What comes to mind when you hear feet?
I don't know. Well, my nails are not great right now, but that's one of my self-cares. I do make it a point to paint my nails, my toenails and my fingernails every week. I don't like getting it done professionally because, again, I do feel like self-care should be something that you intimately connect to yourself. But because of my foot injury, like I usually associate the word feet with pain, overcoming, triumph, self-acceptance. Like I used to love my feet, now I have a scar, so it took me a long time to not hate my injured foot. And I also think of just your overall health. Everything starts with your feet, like I said, so.
Yeah, it got like what I mentioned earlier about feet being an uncomfortable topic. Like to certain people, like the way how it looks. People think of it being sticky, being at the bottom. But also, I try to make the awareness like feet is the foundation to our body. Helps us get to different places from walking and doing all these different things, from exercising, yoga, and all that.
Yes, yes.
All right. I already said how you feel about your feet. So the next question is, how often do you ever receive compliments on your feet?
Yeah, I used to a lot. I mean, to each their own. I'm not going to say that I love, showing my feet off, but I've received compliments.
I got you. So it was from both men and women?
Yeah.
All right. So in terms of like receiving those compliments, do like one feel better than the other? So like let's say if a man commented on your feet, how would you feel?
When I was younger, I would, most of the time, if a man, it really depends on the setting. If it's a complete stranger, like talking about my feet, I would probably, say thank you and brush it off. I have had experience where compliments tries to turn into something like transactional or more, which I think that's something really personal.
I get you.
So usually with men, there seems to be sexual undertones with it, whereas with women, it's more like your feet are cute, or it's more of a comparative thing. Like, oh, I wish my feet looked like yours, or my feet look like this and yours look like that. Yeah. Nail polish color. You don't always really get that from men.
Yeah, so when I did these interviews, most women said that they feel more sincere hearing it from women than a man because like y'all have each other back, plus y'all know what you talk about. Like with men, like you said, if a stranger, you'll know what his intentions are, and talk about like that transactional stuff. I never even thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Like I could understand like why women would feel triggered like with that fight or flight, especially with a stranger. You don't know what his intentions are, and so whatever it is, like with men, certain men, they could hide their true intentions, but I feel like if there's transparency of what's being talked about, where it's feet or not, then the setting should be more comfortable.
Right. I think that probably when I was younger, I didn't care as much because I knew my feet were cute, and I just, I didn't care, and if guys noticed, I didn't really mind. For a long time after my foot was injured, my foot was a size larger than my other foot. It's not anymore, but it was completely purple and black. Like it wasn't skin tone, and so I couldn't wear shoes. And so it was usually only men who would comment on my foot or would even be bold enough to ask me about it, and that felt a lot different from always having people tell you your feet are cute to having like an injured foot. And So I think now I am more confident and comfortable with my feet, no matter how they look, injured or not. I probably feel more proud about my feet than in the past.
Yeah, good. So how often do you wear open toe shoes, like sandals, flip flops?
Um, in the summertime, usually daily. I'm a shoe girl. I have like over 600 pairs of shoes. I love heels. I love open toed shoes, sandals, wedges. I love shoes. So, usually when the weather gets warmer, I do make sure that my feet are well maintained and they're ready at any time to be able to wear open toe.
All right. How often do you go barefoot?
Daily. I've always loved being barefoot. I also think that helped my foot heal because I couldn't wear shoes. And so, one of the first things I did when I taught myself how to walk was I would go walk in the grass and the dirt barefoot and meditate on the sensations on my foot. Um, yeah, I've never, I don't like socks. I hate socks. I would probably wear open toes in the winter if I could.
If it wasn't Illinois.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, yeah. But I'm usually once it's warm enough. Even I think even today I was outside barefoot, and it's probably like 40 degrees. Like as soon as I don't have to have shoes on, if I'm not in heels, then I will be barefoot.
All right. And what you mentioned earlier about walking in the grass, dirt, and all that, what you described was grounding.
Mhm.
And you're familiar with that?
Yes. Well, yes, as a yoga teacher,
I'm about to say in general, but basically what you described, like
grounding
yeah,
down in my feet.
that whole meditative, like being in the grass, seeing, connecting with the earth, find it spiritual, more so. Yeah, I never thought this far, but basically like connecting with the earth, feeling
Yes.
the roots,
Yes.
like
Everything's connected. And it is spiritual, but it's also scientific. Like it's scientifically proven with gardening and with your feet. If your skin comes in contact with dirt, then you're going to pick up, energetically, you're going to pick up that. And so it does help you connect more to yourself, ground down, and be more connected to your surroundings and things living, like plants.
all right. All right, so now in this moment, can we see what your feet look like?
No.
All right, that's fine. Because why not?
Well, because we just had a really difficult yoga class, so my toenail polish chipped off during class. I also broke a fingernail during class. Um, so I don't like showing my toes when they're not painted perfect. But I usually paint them every Thursday or Friday, so maybe if you catch me on a good day, they'll be painted.
All right, and kind of like bringing that part up. Also, going back to earlier when we had a talk where you mentioned we gotta get comfortable with being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So with the whole background of my channel, I actually based this off another guy on YouTube who does these similar interviews, and what he mentioned was called exposure therapy. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, that's actually what I went through to get my foot to heal. So as far as mental and exposure therapy, I think that was more like a chronic pain issue and subjecting myself to things that were painful until I could increase my pain threshold. So that is how I'm familiar with exposure therapy.
Right. Give me a little background knowledge on it. We tend to be in moments that give us fear, anxiety, and usually what we normally do is avoid it. And short term, it helps us relieve us, but in the long term, it can actually get worse. So when we're actually in these moments, we gotta really ask ourselves what the worst that could happen. If it's not like a threat to our health or safety, we should proceed with this and practice over and over till we get rid of that fear or anxiety. So like basically talking to a stranger or approaching women, like because it's hard building that confidence, like go up to a woman. So to practice, like start off saying hi, and then once you're comfortable enough, you could even progress that, like start a little conversation or ask a question like, hey, where do I go to the next coffee shop, wherever. So what's your thoughts about exposure therapy?
Do you mean what are my thoughts about exposure therapy in terms of like be more extroverted.
But that's just one topic, but basically like facing our fears and anxieties to overcome them, so we could help proceed doing these new experiences. Like when I asked your thoughts about doing new experiences, we tend to have like these anxieties, but if we don't try it, we won't know how to feel.
Yeah, I can see what you mean now. Yeah, I think it's essential.
Right.
As far as, I mean, if it's a gradual thing, yes, I do think that exposure therapy is very beneficial, um, to anyone. Yeah.
All right. And now moving on to the next topic. Are you familiar with reflexology?
Yes.
So when you when you experience reflexology, how did it feel to you?
It was horrible.
Horrible. Why would you say that?
Well, like I said, I have complex regional pain syndrome. That's a reflexology disorder. So I went through 6 months of physical therapy for reflexology. I got books on it and I practiced it myself for a very long time because my foot injury damaged my central nervous system. Like I had half a fever on one half of my body for a year.
Wow.
Like you lose homeostasis of your body, you lose control of your muscles. So as far as exposure therapy and reflexology, I don't know if you're familiar with something. It's called a bed of nails. It's not actual nails.
I heard of it.
So that's what I use to regain function of my foot, and basically it's like exposure therapy. It's like standing what feels like on a bed of nails, gradually more and more until you can endure it. It does tie into reflexology because once you're able to mentally get past the uncomfortable nature of it, it allows you to control your body more than even, well, for me, what doctors told me I couldn't do.
Yeah, usually when I bring up reflexology, I never got like the whole, or like explain the whole basis to you, but like all these different pressure points correlate to different parts of the body.
And your foot, there's the pressure points in every part of your foot that ties to every single organ.
Yeah, and apparently reflexology isn't for you.
It isn't for me?
Or like, because you mentioned like it's painful.
No, well, it was. It's not anymore. It was. It was to the point where I initially couldn't even stand on carpet, and then I moved on to standing on a bed of nails. But as I did that, my organ function got better, my fever went away. So it took both reflexology and exposure therapy for me to regain my normalcy.
Got you. All right. So kind of wrapping up this interview, what are your thoughts about it overall?
Over the interview, or
like was it good or bad? You find it interesting?
Yeah, no, it was good. It's interesting to me because it's something that I personally was interested in to begin with. I think that like maybe if some of your questions were a little more specific, I would know how to respond to them better. Because the direction that you're going, I do like it, but there's just so much to it, you know.
Got you. That's something I should look into more. And did it make sense to you between the connection between feet and mental health?
Will you ask that again?
Or like, so did you understand the connection between feet and mental health?
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate my approach? So like when I asked you to do this interview.
I would say like a 9.
9. All right.
Only a 9 because I think you were trying to do a little exposure therapy yourself by dropping the "Can I see your feet" bomb.
Yeah. I'm about to say basically challenging, but nah, it's fine. Like that's the whole point. Like bringing feet up. That's the whole part of the exposure therapy when I do these. Okay. But it's totally fine. Anything I could improve on in the future, like in terms of when I be asking women to do these interviews, most of them would say no, mostly because like they'll know me or they don't want to be filmed, or also when they hear feet, they kind of like discharge them or withdraw them.
Right. Maybe just have a clear intention, like a precise, like, this is my interview, this is what it's about, this is what it's not about.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And last question, any closing remark that you would like to share? Could be a life lesson or quote you heard of.
No, I think we covered it all in the interview. It all starts from the bottom up. So take care of your feet, take care of your body, take care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.